Welcome back to Frustrated User Guide. I'm guessing you already know that washing machine repairs do not go the way part vendors would have you believe. The actors in those videos are working on spotless, brand new machines in wide open studios. You and I are working on rusty, dust-filled machines in very tight quarters. This episode starts where most people get stuck. I've already cut off the spanner nut with an oscillating tool. And I'm about to remove the stuck inner tub with a homemade C-clamp puller. The hour you'll spend watching me make mistakes should be well worth it. This is the video I wish I had watched before starting this repair. Okay, I finally loosened the inner tub using the C-clamp method that I saw in this guy's video. So consider this a supplement. Now the size of the clamps. Stick it in there. So this is about a 7-inch opening, and that's what we used. You need a pair of these. Across the top here, I just have a piece of wood. I was concerned whether or not the wood was going to break. That's just a slice of a 2x4. It didn't break, it worked fine. The other guy used the trailer hitch, so if you're thinking you don't have a trailer hitch, piece of wood's going to work. And below that, to protect the spine, this would be right down here. That's an 11/16 socket. Now, to turn these handles, first of all, our wrench was falling off the nut, so it took 2 people to hold this while we were putting the clamps on and getting it to hold together. Now, in order to turn these handles, we used a piece of gas pipe, put it right on there, and that gas pipe gave us extra leverage to turn the handles. And so just maybe half a turn on that side, half a turn on this side, half a turn on that side, half a turn on this side. How long would you say this took?
No more than a minute or two.
Within a minute it just popped, and if you look down there right now, it's quite high on the spline. Let's see if I can zoom that in. See, it's risen quite a bit, so it's very loose right now. And just tightening these, anything you touch right now, it's just coming right up. So we're going to take it apart and see if we can pull this inner tub off. So it's still stuck. We've taken it apart, but it still doesn't want to come. So we took it apart too soon, and we're going to try again. Okay, we've got it back on. It has come up quite a bit, but it was not enough, so we're going to try some more. So just watch right down here. See if you can see it moving. It should come. Boy, it seems quite loose, but we were not able to lift it. But I am meeting no resistance right now.
That piece of wood is loose.
Right, because it seems like the whole basket is already loose, but we're not able to lift it off.
Yeah, the whole thing seems loose.
If you look here, you can see how much this has risen. Finally, it's loose. Not the best thing for the porcelain, but she's broken free. Okay, so mistake we made. Probably should have had a towel down here. I wasn't expecting that. And now, it should just lift right out. And it does. Another thing, take the socket off first. Oh well, first time for everything. Well, we got an awful lot of crud down here. It's incredible. Look at the mud that's built up here. Now the reason we took this apart was to clean all this crap out of here, and also when the spin cycle ended, we were getting a real grinding noise, a noise of, I don't even know how to describe it. It just didn't come to an end of the spin cycle. It made a very loud noise. I was expecting to find a piece of metal or something down in here. I don't really know, but we're going to get all this out of here and put it back together and see what it sounds like. Okay, so before I start cleaning this, I thought I would show why this stuff was so difficult to remove and what might have been causing this strange noise when the spin cycle stops. So at the bottom of the tub, we have quite a mud buildup. That stuff down there is actually mud. And I'm thinking that the two tubs were grinding one on top of the other. And this shaft is not very pretty either. Quite a bit of rust right here. Remember, that inner basket spins. What's this right here? Was that touching it? Well, we're going to clean this all up and see if it's any quieter when the spin cycle stops. Now let's look at this inner basket itself. If we look around the edges here, this rust has built up under this plastic piece, and some of it is sticking quite a bit up from, it's not flush anymore. So that could have been rubbing also. I took a big chunk out of this area. See all this material that's loose? So yeah, when the tub settles down after the spin cycle, I'm thinking that just touching this washer, all this came loose and was grinding. I'm not sure how I'm going to clean this up. This is quite the mess. Pretty gross down in there. Well, we'll see. So you hear the noise that this is making as we scrape this stuff off?
Yeah.
Didn't that sound like the noise that was being made when it came to a stop?
No, not at all.
So describe the noise then. And maybe it's something else.
That's why we thought that it was a piece of metal that might be caught in it, because it sounded like metal on metal.
So this could be all for nothing. There's a lot of crud in there. I don't know how we're going to get that out. Not supposed to touch that.
Oh.
Because it is really a gross mess. Well, it's not clean, but it certainly is not clogged either. I would say that's as good as it's going to be. I still say all of this rust scale between what's on the outside of this and the inside of the inner drum, that had to be slowing down the spin speed and making noise. It had to. Is that the sum total of it? I don't know. But don't tell me this is making it quiet. Now, unlike the mud and scale that was on the inner one, a lot of this is rust. Rust and metal flake. So this is going to have to come out. I just don't know how to do it just yet. Awful lot of crud here. Crud, loose rust. Nobody in their right mind would do this. At this point, you would need a new basket, or you just give up on this repair and get another machine. It's rusted to high heaven. Well, the reason they don't show you this coming off is because you got to chisel it off and break it off.
Just a little bit more on the other side. There. You have to loosen that up. There you go.
Okay, so this piece of junk, no longer required, no longer available. The rest of it's over here and all over the garage, has been removed. supposedly replaced with little plugs that go in these holes. Now I can get all this mud out of here.
And maybe get the block out.
Right, the block should come right out now because nothing is stopping it. This really, obviously, I regret ever having started this. I hope someone sees what you're up against, because this is reality. Those other videos that the manufacturers are showing you, that's fantasy land.
They're on brand new machines.
Look at this. By the way, this drum, it's not available either. It's on manufacturer's back order, no estimated delivery date. It's a special order. I doubt you're ever going to see these again unless an aftermarket part comes up. But it looks terrible right now. But who knows, maybe we can clean this up enough and plug these holes.
Will it run again?
Yeah, will it run? Not going to last very long.
It's been sitting in a cellar for 34 years. Will it run again?
What a mess this is. Honey, I think we buy a new one tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Will it wash one more load of clothes? Or will we give up?
So wouldn't we need those filter plugs before
Hopefully we could get them somewhere. They can get them on Amazon. They're not that much money.
Yeah, I know, but before we can even try it, we need to have the filter plugs, right?
And this is going to have to be all dried, rust-proofed, painted. Something's going to have to be done. You can't put it... I can't imagine... You can't put this back in the washer like this.
Yeah.
So it's the next day. I've let this dry overnight because this was so wet yesterday. It was just making a big wet mess. And the plan is today to try to scrape off or wire wheel off as much of this material as possible. Now I did look up this part to see if a new inner basket was available, because this one is shot. They're not available. No one has them, not OEM, not aftermarket. It's on indefinite back order. No estimated time of arrival is given. So most likely they're never going to be in stock again. So we're stuck. Either I get this cleaned up enough to get a little more life out of it, or there's no hope. Now, the reason I say that, the plastic magic filter that had been on here that was trapping all this rust, that's not really a lint filter. Have you ever heard of a filter that you can't clean? What that was a rust trap. Not a lint trap, but a rust trap. And it trapped all this scale that's here. And the reason you had to trap it is because if this thick metal material went down the drain hose, it would quickly destroy the water pump. So the purpose of that plastic ring that was here was to trap all this rust, because the bottom of this tub is in water 24/7. So we're stuck. Can't get a new one. Only hope is to try to clean this one up as best as possible. There's not going to be much metal left here. I don't know how long this might possibly last. Maybe we get another year out of it. Who really knows? Now, if I had known about this before I started this repair, if I had known that I was going to need a new inner tub and that they weren't available, then obviously, what's the point? Now, why was this so difficult to remove? I personally had trouble understanding it. Now remember, the tub's upside down right now, and it does fit right over this block. This block is on the drive spindle, and the tub would just slide right over it. Why didn't it come out? Well, because the inside of this tube, and you see down in there, I've already cleaned quite a bit of this out. The inside of this tube is so corroded, it looks just like this. And it had corrosion welded. This is where the top is seated. This is where your jam nut goes. It had corrosion welded to the drive block. And it may as well have been epoxied or JB welded right here. That was not coming out. So, and the jam nut wasn't coming out either. I had to cut the jam nut off. We'll talk about that later. So that's why this whole basket had to be taken out with the C-clamps. And when you pull it up with the C-clamps, it takes this drive block with it. Now, the drive block also just sets down on top of the drive shaft. So why was that so hard to remove? Because the inner surface of this drive block, you can't really see it because I've already tried to clean some of it out. The inner surface of this drive block was welded, and my thumb is going to serve as the drive shaft, was welded to the drive shaft, was corrosion welded. So we had the inner surface of the drive block corrosion welded to the drive shaft, the outer surface of the drive block corrosion welded to this tower. It was just nearly impossible to remove. And let me tell you something, pounding this out of here, it comes out this way. You pound it out from the other side and it hopefully comes out the bottom and falls out. That was also extremely difficult because, again, there had been this big rust trap here. That was not a lint filter. They call it a magic filter. Baloney. Have you ever heard of a filter that can't be cleaned? That wasn't trapping any lint. I didn't see any lint here. What I saw was tremendous amounts of rust. And it was trapping that rust and keeping these big flakes of rust from chipping off and damaging the water pump. All that was a rust trap. So the reason this was so difficult to pound out of this tube, this tower, is because the rust trap attached with like plastic fingers that engaged in here, and that created a smaller circumference. So that circumference was smaller than the circumference you're looking at right here. So this couldn't possibly get out because it was being trapped by that plastic rust trap. So that had to be removed in order to remove this, or broken up at least. It's out now. By the way, in the event I should get this perfectly clean, they don't sell that rust trap either. That's not available anymore. What they sell are some little plugs that plug these holes. That's what they sell. I wish I had known all this before I started this repair, because what started as what looked like it was going to be a very, very simple, easy repair, not simple, not easy, and chances of success very, very low. Will this run again when I put it back together? I really don't know, but we're going to find out today. Okay, I've got it outside. I've been at it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes with this wire wheel. Best way to get most of the scale though was I just pounded it like this. That knocked the big stuff out. Most of it's gone down the tube, so we're going to see what we got. Here's some of the really big pieces though. How do you think your water pump is going to like getting one of these big flakes of metal? Of course that's going to jam the impeller, break your water pump in no time whatsoever. Not my problem at the moment. My problem was I was getting this big grinding noise at the end of the spin cycle, and I thought something had fallen down and was trapped between the inner basket and the outer basket. It could have been a bra a bra snap, a bra hook. It could have been a screw that I left in one of my pockets. Could be a coin. Could be almost anything that would work its way in here. Although how would a coin get through these little holes? Well, there's holes on the sides too. Well, we also have holes in the drum, because you can see that after just a quick little wire wheeling, look, this is like a automobile rocker panels that have rotted away, a truck bed that's rotted away. There's just no life left to this. There's no saving it. We can't get a new one. So I'm filming this only so you'll know what the result is going to be if you decide you're going to try to save your existing inner drum. Now let's see what we get out of it. Okay, there's the pile of crap that fell down the tube. Yep, that's the noise I was hearing. I feel like a fool. I wish I had known. I am going to put this back together for you. See if that noise has gone away. There's no way we're going to use this to wash clothes. I still have to clean down inside here. But we'll see. Because if these ever should become available again, and this is really all that's wrong with it, then a lot cheaper than buying a whole new washer, because we're spending about $1,500 on a new one today. And I'd rather spend $2 on a new basket if that's all it needs. So we'll see if it runs well, at least for one last spin, shortly. I don't know how our clothes were coming out clean, because there's so much rust. I would have thought, if I didn't know better, I would have thought that our clothes would have been full of rust stains.
They weren't, though.
They weren't, but look at it.
I know.
So how was that possible? I'm just trying to pick up any loose rust here, because I know this is going to make a big rusty mess in the... At least it's not coming off and flaking off in my hands now. Okay, before we put this back together, ridiculous proposition, but before we do, I thought it would be a good idea to go over how we got to this point. Now, the original problem with this machine is that during the spin cycle, the laundry basket started to bang. See, it's pretty hard to move right now because we fixed that problem. But it was banging, bang, bang, bang. Whether it was banging this side or the back, I don't really know. But while it was spinning, bang, 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 bang. Okay, what was causing that? So I took it apart. I wanted to look. And under here, this spring, the one that you see right here, was hanging loose. It was just hanging down. It was not attached. And there were two reasons for that. Don't know if I can get down here. But the attachment point, called the retainer, where it attaches under here, that had broken in half. And so there was no place to attach it. And it was just hanging down. Alright, so let me show you the old ones. So there are 3 of these springs in the machine. Here's the retainer. Here's the retainer that broke in half. Now, the springs also, if you look carefully, it looks like it's been hacksawed. That's just due to wear. And both ends of that spring were hacksawed. But apparently it's just worn out. And also, not only do the retainers wear and break in half, but the other end, the bracket that this attaches to, is also cut like that. Now the other two weren't as bad. You can see that the bottom's not cut at all on this one, but the top is cut. And here's the third one. I replaced all three. Top is almost cut all the way through. Bottom one is not cut. And while you're at it, they recommend replacing this leveling spring. You can see that that one is just about ready to go also. This side's in, nope, that one's cut too. So we put 4 new springs in it. I ordered 3 retainers, but actually 2 of the retainers were perfect, so I left the old ones there. Replaced this. We put the machine back together. No more banging. It looked 100% fixed, except at the very last second, reminiscent of a computer a computer from the 80s, where you're saving a file, you've worked hard on a file, you click save, you're just about done, the computer crashes and you lose all your work. Well, at the very end of the spin cycle, just when it shuts off, you get this really terrible, terrible grinding noise. So what was causing that? Well, I'm thinking that in working on this, and maybe even just because it's in a different position now, and removing all the dirt and dust that was on the outside of this, I mean, this was just packed with dust, that maybe something fell between the 2 baskets, and maybe the bottom of the inner basket was rubbing against the bottom of the lower basket. Now when it spins, the basket rises a little, and it's spinning, and then when it breaks, it sets back down. And so if there was something caught in here, maybe a bra snap or a screw that might have been in one of my pockets, or who knows what, maybe I thought they were scraping. And so now we started to take this apart to see if there was something caught down in there. What we found when we finally did get it apart was gross. It was packed with mud, actual mud, debris. What was down there was unbelievable. And worse, what we found on this, the so-called magic lint filter, was really just a rust trap. And this is rusted through. The more you touch it, the more flakes off. There's no rust trap now. I can't imagine this is going to go through more than a cycle or 2, because as more of this flakes off, it's just going to jam the water pump and destroy it. And the water pump right now is working perfectly, but you can't get a new tub. And I don't know if this is the extent of the problem. So we're going to put the tub back in, go through a very short cycle, if it still works. And we're going to see if when it breaks, it still makes that horrible noise. If it does, we'll know there's yet something else wrong with this. If it doesn't, then we'll know that a new basket would have fixed this other problem, but these are not available. But anyways, we're going to find out, and hopefully somebody can learn from this experience. So the first step is to put the drive block back on. Now I actually bought a new drive block, but since we're unfortunately forced to scrap the machine, I'm just going to try to reuse this one. This is the old one. Now I've cleaned it up on a wire wheel, but you can still see where it exchanged metal with the laundry basket, the inner basket. And you can also see, I don't know if you can, where the spanner nut had seized to the bottom on these threads. But it's cleaned up now. I'm going to put a little anti-seize compound on this. I know it's pointless, but if I were trying to get, say, another few months out of this, I would have some anti-seize compound in here, and probably also on these threads. We'll see. I'm going to put it back in and see what happens. Okay, so I've got the old drive block in and tapped down so that these ears that you see right here are flush with the surface. Now what I'm going to do is put a little anti-seize compound on the bottom here where it froze, because that's what I would have done if I thought this was fixable. But in the meantime, I'm going to do it like that. We'll see what happens. Okay, anti-seize compound is on. I'm going to try dropping this inner laundry tub in place. No such luck. What am I missing here? Well, basket does not slip right on the way I would have expected. It's so corroded in here. So sharp, and there's some plastic ears here left behind from the rust trap, aka magic filter. It just won't slide down the drive shaft, even though the drive shaft is perfectly clean. Now, there was a retaining ring in here, and I just removed that. I can try. I can try wire wheeling off some more of these jagged edges. Right now it does not want to go on. And that's where it sticks.
Can you try turning it, like lifting it up and trying it another direction? Maybe it slips into slots or something. Even has to go a certain way.
Maybe I put this together wrong. Maybe that... There's no way to get that out. That has to go back first. There's no way to get that out. When this is in place. So unless I'm just being stupid, it doesn't want to go. See, it's stuck. More or less like this.
Okay, explain how you had to wiggle it.
Well, it did have to be wiggled down because it didn't just fall down. You had to wiggle it down. So I guess that's why they show you wiggling it up. It doesn't just drop. You got to wiggle it. Well, let's see how far we get. Oh, now the next thing I was going to do was to put some anti-seize compound on these threads. So how much did we just pay for our new washer that we're not going to get for another 4 or 5 days?
$1,400. $1,378.07.
So I would love to have been able to fix this one, but it's not the way it is. All right. This, by the way, this is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. There's a lot of blogs that say it goes the other way. Not on this washer. This is a standard to the clockwise to tighten, counterclockwise to loosen. How tight do I want to make that? Not too tight. So even though I know this is going in the scrap metal, I'm still putting it back together the same as if we were able to fix it. So that's good. I'm gonna go crazy here. Now back to the problem that caused us to take all this apart. See, this was banging. It's not banging now. Maybe it could still hit the sides, but we have new springs on it. It's pretty stable. Now, they do sell plugs to go in here. I didn't bother buying them because this is all done. Presumably a new inner basket would come with the plugs. I will check to see though if I have something to cover those holes with it, even though we're just making a water test, or going to try to make a water test. I'll see if I got something. Well, I'm having a very hard time putting the cabinet back on. Now the front of the cabinet has to go under here, and the sides have to ride on top of here. So you catch this and then rock it and get the sides caught. And there's little ears here, that 2 in the front, 2 in the back, that are supposed to hold the sides. The problem is the sides spread. But the real problem, and the reason I'm making this clip, this is bent. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. Look at the shadow on that side. Look at the shadow in the middle. Look at the shadow on this side. So, in working on this, having such a hard time getting everything apart, I'm sure this was stepped on. It got bent, and that is what's making this so hard to put back together. So I'm doing my best. I'm going to have to put the camera down to bend this back up. Okay, so I used this monkey bar and piece of wood for leverage. There's a lot more space here now. You can see the shadow is more consistent. Maybe I'll have better luck getting the cabinet together. So another tip I can make on cabinet removal. It's very hard to get the 2 sides in place because this is not square. They're spread out, so you catch the left side. You go over to catch the right side. You get the right side caught on the bottom, and the left side kicks out again. So here's what you have to do. When you get one side caught, put in this holder. Snap in the holder on that side. That'll keep the first side that you catch from kicking out again. Now go work on the bottom of the other side. And as soon as you get it in, then you can come up and pop in the second one. Now I don't recall any video that I saw of anyone putting this cabinet back on where they said to do that. But believe me, without doing that, one guy, almost impossible. But once I learned that trick, I got it the very first time. I wish I had known this trick 2 hours ago.
It didn't. Now it's going to fill in.
So there you go. It didn't make that horrible noise, so that proves the horrible noise was all that rust caught between the two baskets.
Unless it's going to make it now, because it sounds like it's spinning a little bit more. Yeah, it's spinning a little bit more.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So it's still spinning right now, right?
Right. It won't start refilling again until it reaches that dot. Seems like it's taking a long time, but that just could be because we're waiting for it. It did not. Now it should start filling again.
Right. So I was right.
You were right.
That horrible, horrible
rust.
noise was all that crap caught between the two tubs.
So now it's going to fill again and rinse.
So this means until the new washer comes in, if this water comes out clean, or we could run one of those cleaning pellets through it, you could actually catch up on the laundry.
Yeah. It looks pretty clean. It looks cleaner, doesn't it?
Well, cleaner than that first one, because that first one was...
We'll see how it looks once it finishes. But it did not screech, because before it was...
Okay, folks, so there's your proof positive. If you're getting a terrible, terrible screeching noise when the spin cycle stops, it's not the clutch. At least it was not the clutch in this case. It wasn't the transmission. What it was all that rust, all that mud, and all that debris that's caught between the two tubs. And having cleaned it out, it's working normally now. So in order to fix this machine, to make it good as new, we would just need one of those unavailable inner tubs.
Yeah.
OEM or aftermarket, this would be fine. But they don't have it. Oh, now in case you don't know, this washer is 24 inches wide. But when we went to look at all the new washers, they've changed the size and they're now 27 inches wide. So that's possibly why there are no more 24-inch baskets, because they just don't make this size anymore. Oh man, I hate to throw stuff away unnecessarily. I don't mind buying a new washer. We've bought this in 1989. It's 2023, so it's 34 years old. But I just have this feeling that if we put a new inner tub in it, it might go another 34 years. What a shame. Oh, it's a lot cleaner now. First fill came out quite rusty, because you know how rusty that backside of this tub is. Is it going to do something when it hits that dot again?
Well, it looks like it's a little off, because usually it would start filling when it hit the dot. So the dial's a little off. It's an old washing machine. So it's going to start. It's filling now. When it hits the dot, it's probably going to start agitating. And it turns by itself, you can see. We've got it on a short, very short wash, 2 minutes. Seems longer than 2 minutes. Okay, it's going to be hitting the dot pretty soon. And when it does, when it senses that it's full enough, it's going to agitate. See? Did you hear it click?
Perfect. Before that would be a really, really loud click. Now that's a relatively soft click.
Yeah, it's a normal click. This is what it always had. And so now it's going to agitate for a bit, then drain.
So that's it. We just need an inner tub. Nice and clean. Well, it's not that horrible noise that it was making before. It does make a noise when it stops. What do you think, darling?
It's making no more noise than it ever did. In fact, I thought it seemed a little quieter overall, the washing machine, and it came to a smooth stop, no noise. It was making a hideous screeching noise before. And now it just came to a stop, just like it always did, nice and quiet. The water looks cleaner now than it did when we first started. It was getting rid of some of the rust that was left over from the repair. And it seems like you could actually do a wash in it.
So maybe we can get caught up until the new one comes in.
Yes, maybe we can.
Okay, so I hope this helps someone. Here's the problem. The problem is this inner tub basket no longer available. Manufacturer back order. ETA unknown. Probably never going to have another one. What a shame. So I hope this helps someone. I hope you appreciated the tips that we tried to share. See you next time. Well, you may have heard that suds back up with the new washers. Well, this is what's happening with ours. The suds are overflowing on the drain pipe. It's pretty gross. Same amount of soap as we always used. Never ever had this problem. Not in 34 years with our old washer. Never. And this here is a $1,300 Speed Queen. So if you end up with a new washer, better use a lot less soap, or you're going to have this problem. Get your bucket ready.
We would have had a real mess down here.